All right, so this is the recording for exercise 1, which is our 5 historic typefaces, and each of these has a different classification. And we're building this in InDesign. Now, if you do not have access to the software by now, you would need to kind of let me know, and we need to figure out a possible workaround. It's not a great workaround, but it's a possible workaround. Now, the first thing when we're in InDesign, and some of you guys have seen InDesign in Intro to Computer Graphics class or in other classes, some of you have not. When you open InDesign, and my window may look slightly different because I need to update mine, we would hit Create New or click on Create New to create a new document. So I'm going to click on Create New. And then we'll get a dialog box that comes up. And it does appear as if my InDesign's running a little slow. Maybe that'll help me go slow enough. Sometimes I go too fast. Typically, we would consider this a print document. So up at the top of the window for the new document, you click on Print. And there are some presets available. Letter is typically pretty popular, so they put it first. So I click on Letter. And you may notice that down over on the right. Quick. Yeah, Jose, how's it going?
We're supposed to download the fonts, right?
Yes, I'll do that here. Yes, I'll do that here in just a second, but you can go ahead and download them. Yes. Yeah, while we're getting this new window open, maybe go and download that thing that says it's up here. Where is it? Where it says Files for Exercise 1, 5 Classic Typefaces. We would download this right here. And normally if you just click on it, it will download automatically. On the PC, it does it down here at the bottom, and then you can click and drag that to a folder. I would create a folder called Typography. That way all your stuff is in one place. But get your files ready. And let me grab a folder here. Looks like I don't have it open. And I would create a folder called Typography. And then I typically create a folder called Exercise Files. So you don't have to do that, but I kind of like to organize stuff. So I have one called Exercise Files, and this would be an Exercise 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab this file and drag it to, excuse me, let me get so I can see this. I'll grab it and drag it to my typography folder. There we go, Exercise 1. I have quite a number of files in there because I teach this a few times. So I'm going to drag this over. It's probably already got one there, but you drag that over. And then on a Mac, just double click on that folder and it will expand it. On a PC though, you can't just double click, you have to right click and then go to Extract All. Okay, so right click, Extract All. And then Jose was asking about fonts. On both the Mac and PC, just to keep things easier for you here, when you open up that folder, it's got some folders nested inside of it because originally this was on a Mac, and when you go from Mac to PC, it kind of does that. But there's a folder called Fonts for Exercise 1. And you can open the folder, you can select all, which would be Control or Command A, then right click, and then you can install them all at one time. Okay, so you'll have to install Baskerville, those 3. Mine are already installed.
Mine would not let me do it. I literally had to sit there and install each and every one of them because it wouldn't let me right click and do them all like it normally does.
Are you on Mac or PC? I can't remember.
I'm on a PC.
Well, that is odd. Well, that's kind of
I've done it before, like plenty of times. Yeah. I'm just glad I already had the Helvetica downloaded because I did not want to sit there and click through all of them.
Right. I mean, Helvetica's got like 30 of them or more. So, man, that's a bummer.
Well, there is a copy of one in there and something that has like shortcut on it.
Oh, that guy is no good. Yeah, throw him away. If he's a shortcut. Okay, so we have a copied one, so we'll get rid of that. Yeah, something happened when this came over, that whole folder, and let's see.
Yeah.
Shortcut. Yes, those are no good. So maybe that was part of it. I'm going to delete that. Delete. Yeah, I need to clean that up for the next time for sure. Yeah, everything else is clean, but yeah, there's a copy of one font and a shortcut of the other. Maybe delete those and then install them. I don't know. And it sounds like it was more of a problem outside of just Helvetica with Elena. I'm not sure. Okay, so guys, I want to take a minute and get those installed. And thanks for reminding me, Jose. I kind of went over that last Wednesday, but it's been a while. It's been almost a week since I've seen you. Okay. Once you have your fonts installed, then we'll go ahead and get into InDesign. Now that will take you guys just a couple of seconds to do that. So I'll kind of talk about InDesign while you guys are installing your fonts here. InDesign is not Photoshop. It's definitely not Photoshop. For those of you guys who love Photoshop, you probably are not going to love InDesign. It's not real intuitive. It's probably the software that most people struggle with the most, assuming you've used Photoshop and Illustrator. It's kind of like what we could call a digital pasteboard. Oh, there's Aiden. Let me let Aiden in. So what I mean by digital pasteboard is it's where you bring or place everything that you would need for your visual communications project. So that would be the words, so your actual type, so your editorial words, any graphics, either photographs or illustrated graphics. And then also you can place or create boxes and shapes and fill them with colors and so on. Now, before I get too far into creating the file for our project, let's just look at a couple of the templates so you can kind of see what InDesign is used for. So if I click on the first template and I click See Preview, this is a template of a A4 brochure. That's a standard size, by the way, A4. It's probably, my guess is it's a US letter page folded in half, if I can remember correctly. But it has a template with a front cover, a back cover, and 2 inside spreads. Two inside pages. Now this shows the front and the back cover together, and the top one shows the front and the back cover separated. But what you can see here is this is where we place, being a digital pasteboard, we place images, text, images again, graphics such as color boxes. Here we have brown and white, and then illustrations as well. I don't see illustrations here. So these templates are kind of nice if you ever were to be in a hurry and need to do something and you didn't have time to design it from scratch. These templates are rather nice. So if you have some client work and they're not willing to pay you much, hey, might as well use a template. If they're paying you a little bit more for custom one of a kind, I would not use templates, or if you started with a template, it should not look like the template when it's done. So here's another one. All of these shapes are created in InDesign. So even the diagonal of this, you would not necessarily go into Photoshop and create a diagonal photo or diagonal cropped photo. This would just be a regular square or rectangular photo placed into this trapezoidal shape. So you can get odd shapes here. Again, this is where we place all of the graphics and type and everything. So again, it's a digital pasteboard. So no, we don't copy and paste necessarily from the other software. We go to File and Place. Okay, so no copy and paste from other software. That's typically not good practice. So I'm gonna close this, hit the back button rather. And you guys, there's a whole bunch of different templates. So if you're doing invitations for somebody, there's an invitation one. There's probably business cards in here. But and they also put them in a photographic sort of looking environment too. So it makes it look more professional. But yeah, this is just a lot of what InDesign is good at. Menu layout, we do those in another class. Not necessarily this menu, but we go a little bit more folded. But a lot of the menus are done in InDesign if they hire a professional designer. So anything that's printed oftentimes is done in InDesign. The parts and pieces may be done in Photoshop and Illustrator. So for instance, these carrots and this, what I'm guessing is I don't know if that's a steak or a potato. It's a graphic reduction, but I'm guessing it's a steak. These were done perhaps in Illustrator, these pieces here. The background was done in InDesign. So these solid background colors, because Illustrator comes in with clean, clear backgrounds, they're transparent backgrounds. You can make the background in InDesign as a big box filled with light blue or light purple blue, and then place the carrots from Illustrator. So you can kind of see, this is a combination of Illustrator files placed into InDesign. Again, acting like a digital pasteboard. All right, so I'm going to click back. Now, hopefully I haven't given you guys enough time to get your fonts loaded while we talked about InDesign, but it's kind of cool, to see what InDesign does best. It mainly does print best. Now, it also has a web feature here, so you have different web templates. Now, guys, this is one of those things, just because you can doesn't mean you should. But there are things like interactive annual report. If I see the preview here, this would be something that would be downloaded from the web. All right, so this is kind of a little template. As far as actual websites go, let me see this preview. This would be a preview of an actual website. Now, we don't normally develop the HTML in InDesign. Normally what I do in InDesign is I actually design it. It's called interface design. And then I will hand off the graphics and the design to a web developer who does the coding, assuming they're not using templates and things. So template-based websites. So this is an example of a website. Again, it's more for interface design than it is anything. If you ever do storyboarding, they also have storyboarding templates for those of you guys who are thinking about going into animation. So or movies. Some of you guys have an interest in film and possibly animation or game design. So you have these really nice storyboards that you could use and put your own graphics in there. And more web presentation type stuff. So it's not necessarily website so much as it is web presentation here. Okay, so there's a little web feature there. And then there's mobile. So if you're doing any sort of design that would be interface design that would be going onto different platforms, they have templates here for EPUB or like ebook layouts, Instagram kind of looking things for phones, and phone and tablet type stuff. Okay, so if you ever need a template, they have a few. These are free. They have more than that. If you click view all presets, you can see all of the different formats they have. So if you're doing for an iPad, there's for iPad. If you're doing something for an Android, there's that. And so it has these kind of platforms. And web also has the same thing. If I click on web, you can see all the different sizes of, it's so many pixels by so many pixels of all the different web formats. Okay, so there's a little walkthrough on the beginnings of InDesign. I'm going to get on this one. It's just going to be a print document. So I'll click on letter. Now you'll notice over on the right-hand side, there are measurements. Oh, Aiden, thank you very much. I was a little late myself, so thank you. Guys, for those of you guys who are a little late today, don't worry about it. I had some serious issues this morning that kept me from being on time, which never hardly happens, but it did. So here on the right-hand side, you'll see something that says picas. Now, picas is a unit of measurement that we use for larger things like column widths, page sizes, that kind of thing. If you are not fond of picas, you can always click on that unit of measurement and go to inches. You would do this after you clicked on the letter option for the format. Now, if I went and clicked on legal, what happens is it changes back to picas. So don't assume that that's going to stick. So when I go back to letter, it goes back to picas. Now I'm going to take it to inches. Now, as far as the next area goes, we're going to have 5 pages here. So instead of 1 page, click 5 and tell it there's going to be 5 pages in the document. Now, these would normally be printed as individual, like little flyers or something. So we don't want facing pages on because it's not a booklet. So let's turn off or uncheck facing pages. Now, the start number, that means what page number would you like to start on? Now, later on the semester, we may start on a different page. Like, let's say we're doing an article in a publication. We may start farther into the publication. Today, we're just going to start at page 1. Now, I do need to specify that there will be 2 columns on this. That would be, if you hit preview, we would be able to see what's going on here after I move my window off to the side. And I have a very small monitor, so it's fussing with me. Okay, well, preview for me is not going places. There we go. It's just really slow. So a preview is going to kind of show me where things are. This is not how I want it to look yet. I need the gutter between the 2 columns. I need that much wider. Let me look at the instructions and see what that is. No. Okay, I don't have it there. All right, let me tell you what that is. I don't even think it's here. Let me look at my book. I have taken some notes in my book. This is loosely similar to what's on page 106. Okay, so just so you know, let me go back to my print or my document setup. This is a 2 column. The gutter, guys, is pretty wide. The gutter is going to be 5 picas, 5p. Put a p in there because right now we're in inches. If we put 5 in there, we don't put a p, it'll mean 5 inches. So 5p for pica. It will automatically convert that to inches, which is 0.83333. Now, if I hit preview off and on and move my window down, you'll see how much wider my gutter is. So the gutter is the space between the columns. So here's the first column on the left, the second column on the right, and then a gutter in between. So we're going to have a fairly wide space between the columns of type. The next thing is to set the margins. So the margins are below. You can always scroll if you have to. If you don't see it, there's a little scroll feature here. But we're going to click on margins, click on the arrow. And on the margins, looks like those are either 3 pica or half an inch. And we'll talk about picas and inches. So if I type in 3p, 3 picas, that actually will convert to a half an inch. So half-inch margins are actually okay on this. That's kind of a default. And again, I'm looking at page 106 of my book as far as instructions go. And if you don't have your book yet, it's no big deal. We can walk through this, no problem. Now, again, I'm going to hit preview and look and make sure my document looks okay. So it looks okay to me. Now I'm going to hit OK or create. All right. Now, the first thing I usually share with folks is just some basics on InDesign. Obviously, we have a page here. The gray area is what we call the pasteboard. Some people call it the canvas. It depends on if you're an illustrator in design, but most of us call this gray area the pasteboard. There is a thin black line around the edge of the page. If I zoom in, it's very, very thin. Now I'm going to hit Control and the number 0 to zoom back out. So you'll notice that when I use the zoom tool, you can hit the Z to get to the zoom tool. And I can click and drag in a corner and it will just zoom into that corner. So I don't have to click several times. Then to zoom out, again, that is Control or Command and the number 0, not the letter O. If you hit Control or Command O, it'll ask you to open a new InDesign file. So let me close that. So Control and the number 0 zooms out. Now, your tools and stuff may look different than mine. What I like to do is up in the upper, kind of near the upper right corner, you might see Essentials or the word typography or something, you can see that this is going to reset tools in certain ways. Now, I do tend to prefer to use Essentials Classic. And that brings up the toolbar over on the left-hand column or left-hand side. And it's a 2-column toolbar instead of being really long. And over on the panels on the far right, these are pretty standard operating procedure as far as I have a pages panel I'm going to use a lot in the document. I also have layers, which are used quite a bit. I'm not going to use them this time. And colors, swatches. Okay, we're going to talk about swatches another time. We're not really working with much color today. And then it has some effects and things, but for the most part, we are going to use the pages panel today. So you might want to fly out your pages panel. Fly that, have that fly out. So it looks like 2 little facing pages. You click on it and now you have a pages panel. And then you'll see on the top, now yours might be a little shorter, like so, there is a divider line that you can move around. The top has a word none and the word a master and a couple of little pages next to them. These we will talk about later. Please do not click on them now. They are master pages are for they're a page where you can put page numbers and things on there, automatic page numbering. And when you go and have 4 or 5 pages of something, it'll automatically number the pages for you. So anything that you want that to occur or show on each of the pages, you can put on a master page, but we're not going to do that today. Now, to go from one page to another, you would just simply double click on whichever page. Now, you can't tell I'm going from one page to another because they're all identical and they're all empty. Okay, so that's how you would go from one page to another. Now, another way you can go from one page to another is down in the lower left-hand corner. You can click on either the arrow button and click which page you want, or there is, and that's the arrow number next to the field where the page number is. These are called fields, by the way, where there's a place where you can change stuff. To the right of that is next page, and to the left of it is previous page. So if I click on this, it goes to page 2. If I click on the left one, it goes back to page 1. And this one goes to the last page of the document. So if you're going from first to last page, you can quickly click on some of these little icons down here. The number in the lower right-hand corner just is the percentage in which the page is being viewed. Right now, mine's at about 50%, just a little under. Okay, so there's a little bit about, just some of the things that we'll be using. The pages panel. Of course, I did go to, instead of Essentials, I went to Essentials Classic. Also, typography is another good one. So if I click on typography, we're going to have a number of extra things out here, but it puts like a character and paragraph control panel out here, which are mainly things you can find at the top. So I'm going to go back to Essentials Classic. There will be a day where I switch to typography when we're using what are called character styles and paragraph styles. All right, the last area I want to talk about here, as far as this, just basics, is this toolbar. I usually keep it over here. Now, there are some really good keyboard shortcuts for some of the tools here. One I use quite a bit is the escape key, and I'll tell you about that when we cross it. And then also Z for zoom. So if I hover over one of the tools, in the little parentheses, you will see if it has a keyboard shortcut. So zoom would be Z. This selection tool would be either V. Now, if you're in a type box and you're typing, you want to hit escape. So it says V or escape. And then this white one, thank you, Alex, no problem. This white one is more for content inside of a box. So if we're moving a picture, but we don't want to move the box, that the picture is, the bounding box, that's for that. But mainly we're going to use the selection tool today, the zoom tool, and then also the type tool, just the regular type tool. Now, if you want to jump to the type tool, you can click T. Now, if I click and hold down on the type tool, you'll see there are other tools that come up, just a type on path tool and the regular type tool. Today, we are not going to use type on path, so don't worry about that. And please don't have it selected, but I did want you to know that there are 2 different type tools in case you did accidentally click on one or the other. We want to be on the main upright one. Okay, so there's the tool panel. Now up at the top is called the control panel, and this changes depending on what tools you have selected. So if I have the selection tool selected, this is all about the bounding boxes and objects. If I have the type tool selected, it's about fonts. So this is the font name, or this is actually the typeface name, the name of the typeface. Here is the style, whether you have bold or italic or whatever. The next one is the size of the type. So you can see there's a picture where the type gets smaller to larger. That's your point size of your type. And then underneath it is called the leading. The leading is the space between the lines of type. We're going to work with these quite a bit today. And we're also going to work with, this is what it's found in the character control panel. So you can see there's an A over here. That's character formatting controls. We're also going to be working with some paragraph formatting controls. So if we could click on the backwards P, here are things that affect paragraphs. So if we want spaces after paragraphs, well, that's this guy right here. You don't put the return key in twice. You get marked down for that after today. If you need a left indent, here's a left indent. And the field in which that left indent don't push in, by the way, don't put any numbers in there yet. The field that would affect this indent is just to the right of it. So if you float your cursor over each one of these little icons, it tells you what that is. So if you have a paragraph where you want to indent the first line of the paragraph, that's what this one's about. This is a right indent. The field for it is to the right of it. Here is a last line right indent, which normally I haven't really found a reason to use that too much. This one is a space before paragraph. Normally I don't do space between paragraph using same style, maybe on a longer, larger document. And here again with space after. Now, if you want to drop cap, a drop capital letter, you can kind of see it's got a little picture there. You can tell it how many numbers of lines. And if you wanted to drop a whole entire word, you could tell how many characters are in there. There's also bullet points and numbering and some other things. Now, if I widen out my InDesign window here, eventually hyphenation will come up. Now, by default, unfortunately, hyphenate is checked on, and we will have to we'll have to specify hyphenation to turn off on every paragraph that we bring in from Microsoft Word. So this button here, hyphenate, is very, very, very important. I actually, guys, I marked down for hyphens. So that's why I mean, it's very, very important. If you're getting points taken off, then you know it's got to be important. So just kind of walking around the window of some of the things that we use a lot. This is called the panels. So we have pages panel, layers panel, and so on. This is called the toolbar. And up top are the control panels. In this case, with the A clicked on, it's character formatting controls. With the P clicked on, it's paragraph formatting controls. So that's about,
hey, Rebecca,
yes.
Before you get like super deep into actually doing anything, do you want to walk through how to turn off the content grabber? Because I know when you first start InDesign, it's always enabled.
Yes, I do. Now, we're not going to place any images today, but let's talk about the content.
Yeah, I realize, but as soon as you place them and that stuff starts disappearing left and right, you're like, where is this going?
Yes. Elena is referencing to something that we learned about in Intro to Computer Graphics. And some of you guys are taking that class now or maybe another semester. What she's referencing is when we place an image into InDesign, and how we place images is we go to File and Place. I'll just show you guys this. Now, we aren't placing images today, but let's say I want this little snack cake to come in. Well, that should bring back some memories from a previous semester.
Yes, I remember that.
Spent a lot of time staring at that snack cake.
I know, guys, I'm sorry. These are probably not fond memories. So we did this snack cake packaging in our Intro to Computer Graphics class. Now, this guy is really huge. He's probably the unedited version, so that's why he's coming in so enormous. So I'm just kind of reducing him down in size. Now, what Elena is referring to is there is usually a target right in the middle here, and it's called a content grabber, and it gives us so much problem. So what I would recommend doing now instead of later is go to View and go to Extras. And I'm going to show Content Grabber for just a second. You want to click off on Hide Content Grabber. But what happens is it puts this little target kind of in there. And when you want to move the picture, like if you try to move the picture and usually when I move a picture, I want to move the picture and its bounding box. But if I accidentally click in this, if I click in the center, what happens is it moves the contents of the box and not the bounding box itself, which is super seriously frustrating. This is why Elena brings it to our attention. She remembers the discomfort of this, even though it's been a few months ago. And she's like,
it was very painful.
Yeah, you're like, I'd like to share this with others because man, that thing really was awful. So
I accidentally turned it on the other day and it came back and I was like, oh no.
Oh, it's horrible. Well, and sometimes you'll accidentally hit a keyboard shortcut, not realizing what that keyboard shortcut was, and it'll come back. So these little targets are awful. So guys, in advance of working in InDesign, I would like us all to go to View, go to Extras. Don't worry about placing a graphic or anything. Go to Extras and click on Hide Content Grabber. And then from this point on, when you open up InDesign, you won't have that icky little thing there in the middle that creates so much havoc for all of us, not just students, but professionals alike. It was something they did not too long ago. It's been a few years ago. It was an upgrade. And for most of us, we're pretty frustrated with it. We didn't think it was a necessary upgrade. All right. So thank you for that, Elena. So that was about Content Grabber. So you kind of know why Elena is saying, can you kind of tell us to turn that thing off in the beginning so we all don't have frustration later? Because I will forget to mention it until you guys have a problem, because I always have it off. All right.
Yeah, luckily it's one of those, once you turn it off, it stays that way.
Yes, yeah. When you guys close down, when you close out InDesign, you shut your computer down, then you start your computer in the morning, and maybe you create a new InDesign document. It does not come back. Yeah, it's one of the few things that doesn't come back. It's not document specific, in other words. Okay. Now, before I get into placing text, let's talk about saving your documents. Guys, there are proper ways to save them for this class, and there are improper ways. Please do not save anything as untitled. That doesn't tell me who it belongs to. How do I know this is untitled? Well, in the tab up the top, it tells me untitled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this document. I'm going to go to File, Save As, or Save. It hasn't been saved yet, so either one will work. Control S or Command S will work for that. And then I'm going to go into my desktop, to my Spring 2021 folder, to my Typography folder, to my exercise files. And I am now in, let's see, exercise 1. I'll just put in files for exercise 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this file name as the proper way that needs to be named for the class. Now this is, oh, Elena, you asked me to put that in the instructions and I haven't yet. I wrote that down and then I ran away and did another class. Here, I need to put this into writing. Here's how you name your files. It will be your last name, not my last name. I've actually had students title them my name. Please don't title them my name. Title them your last name, then a comma, then your first initial, and then maybe a period or a space, either way. EX1 for exercise 1. Please do not put a period between the EX1 because it might confuse it as a file type, the extension for a file type like .psd or .ai or .indd. So just last name, a comma, first initial, the space, and then EX1, no period. Okay, so this is how we save it. Last name, first initial, and then the exercise. So I'm going to hit save. Now I know this doesn't really have much on it, but I save pretty often, guys. I hate starting things over from scratch because because I didn't save them. So, save often, and that way you, if you lose something or your computer crashes, you don't have to start over from scratch. Okay. So that's basically building the document and saving it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to record this in chunks on the video and then I'll title the videos. So we'll stop the recording, then we'll go into how to place images. So I'm going to stop recording.